Who's just the one that we. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Amityville Union Free School District Board of Education special meeting. Open the meeting now at 5:35 p.m. Please note the exits to where they're marked in the event of emergency. Please silence all your cell phones. Currently at the meeting at this time is myself, President Johnson, Lisa Johnson. President Lisa Johnson. First Vice President Carol Seahawk, Second Vice President Megan Nussman, Trustees Caroline Fanning and Chris Nairn. It's anticipated that Trustees Leslie Kretz and Ron Leon will be joining the meeting. Currently present at the time is Dr. Talbot, our superintendent, and Mary Stevens, our assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction. It's anticipated that both these individuals will be leaving right after us going into executive session. At this point in time, at 5:36. Can I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, just before I go into executive session, I just want to make you aware, it's anticipated that, according to the meeting notice, that we reopen roughly about 8 o'clock. That we may be reopening a little bit early, around 7:45. Can I have a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of interviews for the district clerk positions? So moved.
Second.
Carol Seahawks first. Chris Nairn second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Recording in progress.
Hello? This one.
Good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. We are resuming open now at 8:02 p.m. So what we have on the agenda is on the old business, which was the discussion of the July 15th, 2025 meeting. At our last school board meeting, there was discussion that occurred in regards to meeting on July 15th to discuss, to allow community input or regarding cell phone policy. So a question that I have for the school board.
But it says community input for agenda items in there.
Oh, sorry. Any community input regarding agenda items?
What is the agenda?
Just the old business?
Okay, so you're using, because it was very confusing and misleading, you're using a boilerplate to post to the public, but you're not actually doing any of these items.
No.
So why wouldn't you do like I've seen before where you just do open, whatever? Why are you using, I mean, you know, if you're sitting at home looking at this, it says approval of minutes, committee, board policy committee, policies recommended. PPS special education services. The average person sitting at home is gonna think you're doing this tonight, it's your agenda. So how do we translate that into, we're not doing any of it, we're jumping right down to the end.
All right, so to answer your question in regards, so there was a question from a community member regarding why do we have this template for the agenda? And so one of the discussions that occurred with the person who's been helping us as a consultant district clerk had stated that we should be utilizing this template of the agenda. So I know, and sometimes in the past, we didn't utilize the template.
But
So
you're,
we just put it up right now. Only thing that we have on here is old business. And we have something about the district clerk consultant, and we're gonna talk about that in just a few, but we have nothing on here that we're
okay,
gonna.
I understand, but if you listen to what you just explained, a template generally is a secretarial thing, or maybe, you know, somebody that says, I can't forget any of these things because I have a template. Why would you post a template to the community? Because your agenda, your supporting documents are supposed to notify the community of what you're planning on doing, what you're planning on voting. So if I look at this, additional board action items recommended by the Board of Education, what could that possibly be? I've been on the board, so I had a feeling it might have been a template, but why would you post a template? This is so the person creating it doesn't forget anything. Doesn't that make sense?
So I understand what you're stating. And as I shared with you, that this was a template that was provided to us as a board from from the person who's working with this district clerk. So as we move forward, if we want to remove that, we can, we've done it in the past. So-
I just think it's,
So I hear what you're saying.
yeah, if you're not gonna do any of these items, then it should state, not planned, not intended. You know, maybe a policy that could be on the table that I read in supporting documents is important to me, I'm gonna come to the meeting.
Okay,
So the template, I think, is being used wrong.
okay. Thank you for your comment. Any other comments on the committee input
Yeah,
on agenda items?
I do.
Agenda items, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Two things, the person who's helping you do this doesn't dictate what the Board of Education does. And there was conversation, and we've had special meetings where it's only been action items. So the Board of Education makes these decisions, and you should just have what business you're doing. That's the first thing. As far as the July 15th meeting, there was, discussion for a forum for the cell phone policy, being that it has to be adopted by August 1st, and it's a work in progress, which I recognize is tough, that you have to have input from everybody. The last conversation from last Thursday was it was gonna be a standalone forum. And hopefully it would be at a time when parents and students would come, I would think after work or something, to be more accommodating. I don't think having a meeting on top of a forum, would be conducive to parents or to students. You know, people that are coming for the forum, you know, will, if it gets pushed earlier, might not be able to come just at an earlier time. And people that are coming for the meeting, and they're gonna be pushing the meeting later. So I would think that that wouldn't be conducive. I know that you've asked many times to accommodate your schedule, but I don't think a meeting should be changed for one person. And the last thing is the district clerk consultant. I know that you met tonight and you did interviews for the district clerk. I'm hoping that you did find somebody. There were qualified people. There were 30 applicants. The district clerk just does the agenda, the minutes, and the postings. It's not a big job. There's no reason to have a consultant. The person has available resources through listserv, through the attorneys, through other the administration. There's no reason to do that. I would hope that the board would not waste taxpayers' money and have two people for one position again, even if there's a small gap. You certainly can get through that. And I certainly hope that if it is a consultant, it wouldn't be the person who used to work here, who calls parents and community members racist on Facebook and who's made many mistakes in the past.
Thank you. Any other committee, comment on agenda item?
Hi, Margaret Shuck, Amityville. I also had a comment regarding the district consultant again, because we're at the juncture yet again, two people doing one job. And at what point are you going to either, you know, do cross-functional training so that if there is a gap, that someone else in-house already knows the job? And then I just don't understand why the hiring process is not vetted in the fact that why aren't the right people in the right role? And to have two people doing one job, you're not in a financial situation where you have that luxury, and you do it time and time again. And when I saw that, I couldn't believe it. I said, you just had a consultant doing the same job as somebody else who's getting paid full time. Like, I just don't understand the logic and the reasoning of why you think that this is acceptable. What say you?
Alright, so I'm gonna respond to everyone. Any other committee input regarding agenda items?
No, but I do have the Facebook posting if you want to see. That Wendy was referring to.
Right, so in regards to, so I'm gonna go down to the old business and I'll answer the question when it gets to about the district clerk, when I get to that particular section. So let's, as a board, for the July 15th, 2025 meeting, at our last school board meeting, there was a discussion that we had in public in regards to the July 15th meeting, and having that meeting as an opportunity for the community to provide their input for the cell phone policy. So at that particular meeting, in our discussion, the final discussion was that there would be a forum. So I'm bringing it back to the table tonight just to ask the, to have a discussion on the July 15th. If, for example, we had the meeting starting, 1:30 was having this meeting start at 5:30. Like say 5:30, 6:30, we wanted to do, just kind of hear me out, let's say 5:30, 6:30, this is just one option. If we did an executive session at that point in time, and then starting at 6:30. 6:30 to, and I would say 7:30, but if we need to go longer, make it to 8 o'clock. Whatever time is needed for the community to provide input regarding this particular cell phone policy. And it would be an opportunity for, not for us as a board to discuss the cell phone policy, but for community members to come up to share their opinion in regards to the cell phone policy, and as a board, we would take notes. Therefore, it can help us to solidify the cell phone policy. So, once again, I'm just, let's say 7:30, 6:30 to say 7:30, but if we need to go to 8:30, we'll go to 8:30 to make sure that we hear everyone's input in regards to the cell phone policy. Now, my suggestion was instead of, meeting on July 22nd, that we would then go ahead and just go, I'm sorry. We would then just go ahead and have our meeting that particular night instead of returning back on July 22nd. So, just for clarification, to the community, there was a comment about changing the meeting date to meet the needs. So I did make a request to the Board of Education. I said I had something that came up that was important to me on July 16. I asked the board if they would consider having the meeting moved to July 15th. So that's where that came up. Just as with the July 8th, when we set that particular date, there was another board member who had other obligations, and that's why we're meeting on July 8th instead of on July 9th. So there are times as a board, we do try to accommodate the needs of various board members, so therefore everyone could be in attendance to the meeting. So that would be, so that's what happened on July 15th. So I'm just proposing that as a board. Now, and that's why I'm bringing it out into public, so therefore we can make that final decision about what we're gonna do on July 15th. And then we can start to advertise to the community to let them know what's gonna take place. So the question that I'm putting to the board, do we just wanna make it a cell phone policy meeting, or do we wanna make it, we do the cell phone policy, we can do it from 5:30 to 7:30 hypothetically. And then we can have a meeting, so I'm just pulling out that way.
All right, I asked a question, the meeting is. What is the agenda for the meeting?
So for the.
I thought
Go on.
So I had put several things on my phone at the last meeting for what's coming up in July, the reorg on July 8th. The cell phone policy forum on July 15th. I also put that we might select the hiring committee people on July 15th, because we're gonna be here anyway. And now perhaps that was, recall that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was like, would be an agenda item or an action item for a meeting, just to appoint these people who have already submitted their applications by the July 10th deadline. And so that we discussed that last week. And then the regular session board meeting was gonna be July 23rd. So,
No, 27th.
no,
20.
23rd.
you said the Wednesday.
We wanted to keep it consistent with Wednesdays.
It's been switched a couple times.
Yeah.
And that's my phone.
Yeah,
Like,
like talk about the keeping it consistent.
Yeah, so I have my phone, because we finally did it July 8th, July 15th, July 23rd. So as far as, because Wendy just made a point about, having a board meeting the same day as a community forum, it's two things in one day. As I see it, the only action items on the 15th would be to appoint a hiring committee, and now potentially to appoint a district clerk. So it's not something that is going to, it's almost like a special session meeting.
And that's why I'm bringing it up I'm bringing it up tonight, just to have this discussion that we're having now, so therefore we can make the final decision about what we're gonna do, so therefore the advertisement can start in regards to the cell phone policy.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, listen, I'll weigh in for a couple things. It's my impression that we are hoping to appoint our clerk on the reorg meeting. Not the 5th, no, not the 15th, but on the 8th. Okay, all right, I just wanna make sure we're on the same page. No problem, okay. So, yes, I think what we wanted to do originally, and I was in favor of, is just a standalone forum to just keep focused on that. But what Caroline said is. If it's possible for us to to appoint the individuals that we want on the hiring committee, and those are the only action items. I think I would be willing to do that.
So
So
my-
that was
my-
the only action, but when Lisa in your email, you kind of suggested that it would be our combined meeting that night, and I don't, that's a lot, because I thought we had the internal auditor presentation, I don't know, there was presentations. I think.
And
And
there's
then
no
that would lie-
presentations that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
meeting, I would go along with it, but if there are,
I don't know, what presentation.
Okay.
I thought that we already knew what our July monthly meeting presentations were.
Right. So here, I'll just say my piece and then I'm
Yeah.
out. So I think the main focus of the 15th has to be the cell phone policy. And if you want to meet an executive beforehand for things that are, allowable by executive session, that's fine. And then the only action items that night should be to appoint individuals to that
No, the
hiring
first,
committee.
the first thing really is this, the first focus is the cell phone policy, because we need to get that, we need to get the input from the community.
Right,
And so I know I was using the word of a forum, so. What we need to make a decision, is it gonna be a forum or a board meeting that we're allowing people to come to the mic to discuss about the cell
Well,
phone policy,
if
so
we're,
that.
if we're gonna take action on items, then you have to open it up for public. To discuss those things, is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that there's two, one is the cell phone policy discussion. So for the cell phone policy discussion, is that gonna be a forum, right? And then we have a forum, if that's the case, then we do that. And then we could go into a board meeting to address any items that we need to address on the agenda. So it's two separate things, there's a forum. And then there could be action items that we would address.
One
Or-
action item, like a.
Or if it could.
yeah.
Or
Much more.
Or
Right.
once again, is just gonna be a board meeting where people come to the mic. To share their perspective on the cell phone policy.
So how would that, what you
That's
just
not
described,
The item of the meeting.
yeah, how would that differ from a forum?
What do you mean?
Forum, we also.
The forum, when people said in groups and whatnot.
Oh, okay, so that's what you mean.
Be even more constructive,
I think the forum
so
is
people would
definitely,
have discussion.
Yes, right.
Okay,
keep it as
Yeah.
a forum.
It's not everybody
All
wants
right.
to go to the podium.
Right, so that's
Yeah.
the reason that I'm doing it, bring this back up for discussion, so therefore we could. Now send out information to the community about this. So now the question is, what time do we wanna start it? Do we wanna start it at 5:30? You wanna start it at 6?
I don't think you can have people there at 5:30, I think we should make it a little, like 7 o'clock or something. I think
7.
7 would be good. Yeah.
Alright, so 7 PM. We just do 7 to 9 PM.
You think you need 2 hours?
I'm just putting it,
I think you do for this, because for a public forum, I think a lot of people are gonna have opinions and wanna talk and.
right, so
Give
Lisa,
people
are we gonna
hours.
have? Someone there on behalf of the district, kind of just laying out some of, the main pieces or components of the cell phone. Law that was passed, to kind of like start the discussion up a little bit, give people things to talk about, so they know.
that's what's gonna have to happen in the beginning. The community needs to understand what the law is right now, and
Right.
most people have heard about the law. But then I think more importantly, what are we asking from the community? And I think that should also be part of what's gonna be distributed out to the community. When you come to this particular forum, be prepared to provide input on the following.
Mhm.
So therefore, they're coming to the table with some information that could be utilized, not to say that they can't present other things they can. But it also allows them to at least kind of think ahead of time.
So like following the forum, we would have like one action item for the hiring committee.
Could we do it
Four?
We do it at 6, I think an hour is the most that we would.
But then the problem is that my recommendation is that if we do like 6 to 8 for the cell phone. And
No,
then,
we just said 7 to 9.
no, but you were asking about the action item, so I don't want the community to be upset that we're doing an action item before the forum. You see what I'm saying?
6.
Right, so if we do that action item at 6 to 6:30, then community members say that this may not be the normal time of the board meeting.
And that has to
Yeah.
happen.
Board meeting.
It's a special.
I mean, but a special meeting, yeah, no,
It's a special session, it's not a regular meeting. I understand
But I'm just making a point that we've gotten, we've gotten complaints that we're taking, even though it's a special meeting and we're doing a vote on the item. That it's not in the time frame of the normal meeting.
Right, so what if we take the action items at 7 and then immediately go into the forum? To vote on one item,
That's what I'm,
it should be quick, right?
that's my, I'd rather do it closer to 7:30 than 7, so.
So, okay, so when does it start?
So
7,
do 7 for the action item.
as if it's a regular
We
board
go into
meeting,
public session at
Public session.
7.
right?
Okay,
and
but
vote
we
on-
as a board, we need to discuss this in executive prior.
Right.
So when does exec start? 6:30. So
I-
6.
I would make it
Say
5,
six.
either 5:30 or 6.
Yeah.
6. I would say 6.
So 6 p.m. 6 p.m. exec, 6 to 7 exec, 7 p.m. we'll start up with the action item. And then
And the
from that
forum
point,
doesn't start till 7:30.
make the form start at 7:30. Okay.
And the forum is not a board meeting, so. We're not gonna like sit up at the dais. We're just gonna, we're not, yeah.
So it'd
Should
be
we
7:30 to
say
9
9:30?
o'clock or 7:30 to 9:30.
I would say
Until
9:30.
it ends.
No, I would
No,
put
you
it
wanna
on
give
to
it time, you
Yeah.
wanna give it time.
I would say 7:30, 9:30.
Sure.
So just to summarize, the executive session will be from 6 to 7. Then the action item will be at 7. And then the forum will be from 7:30 to 9:30.
Okay.
So that's July 15th. So now with,
I'm just on that topic. The selection committee application. What's the status of that and distributing that? I guess we wanted it back for July 10th.
I had that question too. You beat me to it. So.
Well, we were on the topic.
Yeah,
The application that we wanted to distribute.
Mhm.
What's the status of it?
Where's the application?
What's that?
Who sends the
So,
application?
right, so we decided that we wanted 5 community members
Where's the
on the administrative hiring committee.
who's doing the application?
And we have a deadline
you
that we
wanna-
want
you
by
wanna-
July 10th. Right, we set the deadline by July 10th to have it,
Service.
so how do I tell, how do we put it out to the community?
So the question is, was it
Didn't
application?
send, so I think that, honestly, I think that, Wendy, before she finished her term. Typed up the updates and distributed it probably too, I mean,
I'll double check with Eileen, ask for them.
okay. But if not, if we need help filling out the application, I can help with that formatting.
I can call.
Right, and then once the application is finished, I mean, it is a quick turnaround. Obviously, hopefully put it up on the website. It's up to the board to decide if we think a robocall would be in order. You know,
Or how about?
I mean, because we can't really put it like in like the
Social
newspaper,
media?
yeah, like social media.
Yeah, there's not enough time.
There's not enough time to do
Not
anything
enough
with the
time for
newspaper.
the newspaper.
So. And a robocall is in?
Well, yeah, I put it out there for consideration. That's something we think.
Well, we have to decide that tonight because it's gonna have to be done. Yeah.
All right, yes,
Like the
sure.
verbal.
So today is the second. I'll check with Jenny tonight. When I'm done. Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Now, when is the next meeting gonna be after the 15th? Is it the 22nd or the 23rd?
23rd, Wednesday.
That's when they thought we had to, out.
I thought it was 22nd, so I thought.
I did too. That's
I
Because
think
one-
I
one-
thought also the 22nd.
One had mentioned 22nd at the board meeting.
Wednesday.
But whatever we decide on is fine with me, so.
We're talking about keeping Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Right, that's why I thought we decided the 23rd. Okay.
All right, so that's closed out. Now moving on to the district clerk consultant contract, so with the consultant contract for the district clerk only gets paid when they work. So it's not a person who's gonna be getting a consistent salary in particular. There's no set salary, no set number of hours. And the hours that are work are looked at ahead of time before the person does the work. So the reason that it is here on the agenda tonight is because yes, tonight we did have our interviews for the district clerk. From this point, we have to contact the district clerk candidates to see whether or not, we have to do the next steps. We're not too sure when the district clerk could start. So I had asked to put this onto the agenda as a discussion to cover any sort of overlap. Right now, the current person is in the process of, they've completed the past minutes. So right now, all the minutes are up to date and will be part of probably the July 8th meeting. Okay. And then the person is completing the remaining policies. So I can find out from this individual how much time would be needed to complete the remaining policies and get them all uploaded to the board docs. So I was just requesting if we could just hold on to the consultant will not get paid, unless there's work done. And I can communicate with the board, the work that needs to be done and the approximate amount of time that this person would take to complete the work. And if the board, so that can be done. So that's the reason that I was putting out that message. I don't know if this person that we select, if that individual, when that person will be able to start. I'm not too sure if they can start right away, or if there's a week lag or a 2-week lag. So this would allow the continuation of completing the minutes. And that's it. So if the policies are all done, it's just to be a matter of completing the minutes and that's it. So that was the thought process, and that's why I'm bringing it to the board as a discussion.
This is the only task that she's going to complete, is the policy and minutes.
That's
How they're
it.
give it to her.
That's it. The individual would not be doing anything else, would not be responding to any emails, would not have any other responsibility except for this. Therefore, the timing, the amount of work the person would be doing would be very limited. And I have to find out how much time is required to complete the remaining tasks.
So we don't know how long the extension would be for?
We can make that decision as a board. We can say for another 2 weeks. We can say for another 3 weeks. Two things, I'm gonna have to talk with the individual for the position. And if they don't need to give a 2 weeks notice, then. I would just say, just make it for 2 weeks. If they need to give their job a 2-week notice, then I would say make it into the end of the month. Yeah, remember, we have this meeting, we have the meeting on July 8th. And then we have the meeting on July 15th. And then the 23rd. So I'm just looking at my calendar. Sorry about this. So let's say hypothetically, the person can start working, the new person can start working on July 18th hypothetically, alright? So if that's the case, then we will just extend it until let's say either 18th or 20th. So I'm just kind of looking at. So this is a discussion, so I'm just going to hear the board's.
When you spoke with the consultant, was there any indication where she is in process right now? Is she at the end of doing the policy?
She is very close to the end. I can find out exactly which policies are remaining, and I can let the board know.
So Lisa, let me ask you this. What happens if the person, our next clerk, the person that we select, is able to start sooner than 2 weeks?
Mhm.
What if they're able to start in a couple of days? Is this still needed?
We would not need the services of the consultant. As a reminder, the consultant. The services only need when we need them.
Right,
And will only get paid when they do the work.
understood. So I feel like without knowing when our new clerk, whoever that is, can start. We don't know how much time this person may need, if any, as a consultant.
But the
We
only
may
problem,
not need it.
yeah, but the only problem is that the person cannot do any additional work at this time because the contract ended on June 30th. So that this person cannot do anything in terms of minutes, in terms of policies, and anything like that. So that's the only reason I was just asking that if we would just consider, just renewing the consulting contract. If we don't need it, then we don't need it. I won't task this person with anything until we know when the new person can start. And that
You
would be-
just share the minutes like as they are right now with the Board of Education, so that we can just finalize the minutes.
Oh, they're
So
gonna,
that we haven't
they're
seen-
gonna be on a July 8th agenda, and they're gonna be going home tomorrow with the work.
Okay, so it sounds like
So
we can
she-
finish those minutes.
Right, so she just.
And then we had like
So
policy.
hold on a second, she just, so Lord knows, she just completed everything. Today, and she's gonna be emailing those minutes to Dr. Talbot, so they will go home to the board tomorrow.
Okay,
Draft minutes are done.
well, the minute
So it's
was
just the
done.
health.
It's just the
And then-
policy,
Can't be that much left.
not that much, just the
The
policy.
policies were intended to be uploaded by June 27th for a resolution, so
And I,
that should have been done already anyway.
but there was so many
So-
different policies that she was working on and trying to complete and trying to make sure that they were done correctly, so. Eileen, the person that shared that, even though people had typed the policies up, which were very helpful. One thing that the person then had to make sure that they retyped it to make sure that it was in the same
So
font
I-
style and whatnot, hold on, and then the person had to double check, even though they got notification that it was at a particular board meeting. The person went back to the minutes to make sure that it was there, it was noted on the minutes before it was put on the policy as adopted. Because if anyone was to question if it was adopted or not adopted, if the consultant said, well, I got notification that it was adopted on this date, but didn't have any proof, so that the consultant confirmed that it was adopted on the particular meeting date. The consultant then make sure that anything that had to be cross-referenced was cross-referenced and was corrected, was actually reported there. And then just double checked again for any grammatical errors, and then from that point, upload it and make sure that everything was in the same font and same stuff. So that's what was happening, and there was about, I think, 11 policies in one, another 4 or 5, so there was quite a few number of policies that had to be reviewed.
Okay, I think that the policy should have been done by June 27th for the resolution, and I don't think that we should extend the consultant at this time, because we don't have a clear understanding of how much time is left, and whether or not we have a new clerk that can start on Monday, that could just pick things up and wrap it up.
So, and my concern is this, is that by just extending the consulting contract, no one gets paid unless the consultant does work. That's the key, that no one gets paid unless the consultant does work.
I think we
If
said
we,
that a few
The
times.
concern is that the work's not getting done, and, you know, this consultant is supposed to have it done by the 27th.
this consultant has been working diligently, not 8 hours a day or anything like that.
It's not like one person's job, so I
No,
think we'll
it
just
is-
stick to the
no.
question of, do we want to extend
But
the consultant position?
it
That's the
it
question.
is one person's job with the policies, because what happens is that if you have, and this is what the problem is, that. When the person is working on the policies, they're getting information from here, here, and here. Now they have to make sure which information is correct and accurate, and then merge it all together. So it cannot be passed over to what, if someone else is gonna do it, then it can be passed over completely to someone else to complete it. So what's important to remember is that no one's getting paid. If let's say the offer goes out to a district clerk tomorrow morning, the district clerk says yes, right? We still, the district clerk still has to be appointed, the earliest the district clerk could be appointed would be at the July 8th meeting, right? So if that's the case, then I can say to the consultant that there's no additional work that we would need you to do at this point in time, that the new person coming in will finish up the policies. So, but if the district clerk says, okay, yes, I do want to accept the offer, but I cannot start until July 15th. Then the consultant, if we want, could continue. But we cannot do anything if there's no contract, the person cannot do any work. So this is all I'm just asking.
So Lisa, for me, it's difficult to make a decision because we don't know what the amount of work is. We don't know if it's 1 day's worth of work, 3 days worth of work. We don't know.
And I understand what you're saying, but what I'm also stating is that if the contract is approved, right? And if I find out, I can say, and I can ask the person to CC email the entire board with anticipated time frame to complete the following policies, right? At that point in time, decision could be made that go ahead and complete it, or no, wait. So if I understand what you're saying, but nothing happens unless it's stated that.
Don't we need an updated contract anyway, so we're not taking action right now, we started a conversation.
So, I did ask, John Sheenan just to provide an updated contract, but there's nothing, because I did share with the board that we we're gonna have this discussion tonight. So I said we're gonna have the discussion tonight out in public. That was shared with the entire board in an email, and I said in that email, there's no conversation that can occur on this particular matter, the conversation will occur in public. So everyone got that email. I did say to John Sheenan, can you just please provide an updated contract? I said, I don't know what the Board of Education is going to do. If the board decides not to renew this contract, then it's null and void, that's it. That's it. It's a board,
The contract is what you're saying?
I'll take a look.
So if we did do the extension. And then say we have a new district clerk that starts on Monday. We just wouldn't use
Just wouldn't use it.
Correct.
wouldn't utilize the. So. And there's no overlap. We're paying two people to do one
Right.
job.
No one gets
That's not
paid
what I
unless,
was saying.
Right, but if
yes.
the person we select can't start or doesn't take the job and we have to go for another posting for whatever reason. Then we would have somebody in place.
That will be taken care of.
Yes, to safeguard.
It's not what you presented it as, right? Like you presented it as the consultant would finish the policies,
Finish the policies in any minutes that.
so there would be an overlap.
No, there wouldn't.
No.
If
Would
we had a
finish the
class
policies
on Monday.
if-
Go ahead.
if-
Wait a second,
Right.
ladies and gentlemen, one at a time. It's like-
My understanding is the consultant would finish the policies and the minutes if we don't have another
If-
district
okay.
clerk.
Starting right away.
Is that
But
what
if you
you
do,
explained?
then
Yeah, that's what I just explained.
if we do have a new district clerk, then all the policies unfinished get handed off to the new clerk.
Right, so this, again, it hinges upon when can the new clerk start?
So we should
That's
just
the
wait
question.
until the reorg and decide.
That's the pivotal
But
question.
wait until the reorg to decide, then there's timeframes where there's gonna be more policy that won't be completed and placed upon board docs.
Okay,
Right.
is
That-
there,
that's
Following the process.
is there anyone else here in the district that's capable of uploading them to the school district
It's
website?
not just about uploading to the school district website, it's about making, I don't know where the person is in the process of updating the policies. I don't know if the policies are all done
Then,
and they have to be
yeah,
uploaded, then that's fine.
alright, so we have.
But I don't, that part I don't know. The work has stopped because the contract stopped on June 30th. That's what people need to understand, so I don't know where the individual's at this point in time. So I'm just asking, I made my point, so make the decision. I'm just going to you the contract. So I'm just going over the contract that came in about 4:12 today. And there's nothing new in the contract, except that I believe I have to take a look.
The same exact one.
The same one as the previous.
It's just July 1st, it says July 1st, this is up to include August 31st, it doesn't need to go that long. $40 now for a maximum $4,000 total compensation, and once again. So that's it.
Can I? This is like a little bit off topic, but can I just ask that all legal memos just get sent directly to the entire Board of Education and not to the district clerk or to just the board president, just for the sake of just making it easier to transfer?
Yeah, this came in at 4:12, and
But is
I
that
just-
something that we can just ask?
I can definitely ask them if you can.
Okay,
It's not a big deal.
Okay.
Thank you. So we're just to the point where, I think everyone has had opportunity to provide their opinion on it.
This is going through the end of August 31st.
And I just saw that, so once again, that's something that we can always. If we wanna extend the consultant contract, that's something that can be changed.
Has to be changed. Yeah, the date.
So I don't
Date
wanna
has
go.
to change first of all.
Yeah, I mean, Lisa, would you be opposed to tabling this? Just because the contract date doesn't even seem like that's what the board wants to do.
I've already voiced my opinion on
Okay,
it,
alright.
so, changing the date is a simple thing to do. And once again, for me, August 31st is way too long, I was just depending on what's needed. Maybe July 31st, and that's it.
Well, that date will coincide with, you just took what, when she comes. Right, the end date for. The district clerk now.
The end date would be when,
Okay.
well, everything's.
When everything's
Well, I think we would also. Have to amend this part, it says the district shall have the right to terminate this agreement. Upon 30 days notice without cause,
Yeah, so it wouldn't be.
so that would have to be taken out,
Mhm.
if we're not gonna use our.
So can I make a suggestion? And I don't know how you can feel about it, but number one, we don't know. Where. Where we are with how much work needs to be done, we don't know. We don't know which policy still needs to be updated, we don't know if maybe there are some that are updated and just need to be uploaded to the website. Maybe we can find out if they just need to be uploaded, upload those. And, there might be a little bit of a wait until the new clerk comes in on the 8th.
So just to let you know, anything that was completed has been uploaded to board docs.
Oh, okay, so
So I'm not too
so
sure.
whatever's not uploaded is not
It's not
complete.
complete, no.
Okay.
So we uploaded something that's not complete? That's what
No,
you're
no,
saying?
no, I just
The
said that.
the only things
anything
that are
that's been-
uploaded were
Everything that's been
complete.
uploaded is completed,
Right.
with anything
So
that's.
I would like to just wait until the reorganization meeting to understand more as to what's left to do. I'd also like to know how many hours and how much we spent to date, because now this is saying like another 100 hours, so I think it needs like a little bit of cleaning up before we should consider dealing with it. I mean, it's only 2 work days from now, so
I agree with that.
Like, you have my opinion, so the board just needs to decide.
I'd rather wait.
I think we need 2 weeks. Yeah, I agree. I think there's just too much ambiguity that we've gotta.
Alright, so,
I think starting tomorrow, if we know when district clerk can start, we'll have a better idea.
okay. That's fine, look, once again, I wanted to bring it to the table for a discussion, so if everyone have an opportunity to provide input on it. And. That's all I have, anyone have anything else? You want to bring to the table?
So just to be clear, so you're gonna follow up on the remaining work and then
Yes,
the hours that have been spent as well.
Yes.
Under the consultant agreement, because we don't know as a board. If we reached. What we define as our upper limit.
I will find that information, please.
And I just have a question about the application that is going out to the hiring committee. Once it goes out, who's receiving it here? That's the question.
I think we talked about setting up an email, right, that would go to all of us, is that what we talked about last
Yes,
Thursday?
we did.
So we need to set up that email address.
So I assume that once the paperwork is done and we have our, our questions on there. And we let it out to the community, somewhere on there, it has to say where to send it to, so we need to figure that out.
We just make a board of education and.
Well, that was talked about
And
before,
then have it automatically forwarded.
yeah, that was.
Doesn't
discussed.
Does that have to be a directive, how to
No,
make
it's
sure?
we just did something that we've agreed upon, which we talked about last time, was setting up a board email. From that board email would then go to, all of the board members. So it's something, and that can be followed up. With, I can talk about the tablet, she's right here, and then, just asking Pete to set up the board's email, that thing can be closed to. The entire board.
Alright, so on the subject of
We
dates,
put a deadline on it, to make sure it's up and running, just because we did say this last week. the last meeting, so now we.
So quick question, are you saying set up the email as a board, set up a board email connected to the application? Or setting up a
No,
board
just,
email?
just a board email, like BOE at Amityville UFSD.
And anything sent there just automatically gets sent to the seven.
Mhm.
And then one of the things that they were gonna pull out were the foils that would go directly to the record access form, so that we're in the first.
Foils don't go to us anyway.
No, but I'm just saying, just because if they're coming in to like the district court or something like that, that if
Okay.
it's coming in.
That wouldn't be tied to his email, the district
Yeah.
clerk's emails would.
Right, but what I'm saying is that we have to clarify that any. If you're asking for any emails that are coming to the board. If by chance someone sends the board a foil that has to be pulled out and that has to go to the record access officer, you see what I'm saying? Because if we don't have a consultant. Someone may think they can send that foil, they may make a mistake and send the foil to the board instead of sending it to the record access officer.
But
So
It's like just a FOIL request,
Hmm?
like,
that makes sense.
what,
Yeah, it does.
Well,
It does, because
well-
if someone's not sure of who to ask for a request for a
They'll
FOIL,
send it
they may just
you
send it to
know,
everyone.
But-
yeah, and so just forward it to.
the only people that are gonna see this email address are gonna see it attached to this hiring.
Well,
Request.
that's what I'm just clarifying, because I just asked that question, was it connected to the application? Or to anything else, and then I just heard that.
I think
They want-
just the
Well, but,
application.
but people might know, it's like if someone wants to reach out to the board, they might just use it.
It could be
Figure it out,
misused.
and we just, we're in a public meeting, it's being recorded, people know that we want to have this address, so you should be prepared, once you say you have a new email address, you're gonna start getting email. So how are you gonna respond to that email when it comes in?
Okay.
So if suddenly you receive an email that, and you are not the intended recipient, it has to go to the district clerk who's still TBD. Or whoever, at least among the seven of us, we will all be on the same page knowing, okay, this wasn't meant for us, we have to forward it to. Whoever we agree that person should be. And they're qualified to do that.
Anything else?
So can this be, it's just setting up an email, can this be up and running by tomorrow, July 3rd?
It depends on. Yeah. What you want? Yep. Okay.
And
I'll
when
confirm with Ted.
do we have the application out?
So everyone just heard that she will confirm with Ted. That this can be done. Then like by tomorrow.
So, but when do we have the application out on the website? And that?
If the application was sent to Eileen, I have to. The application was sent to the consultant, I'd be on that.
No, ours, the blank one. When did we put it out?
That's what I'm about.
Yeah,
I can find out where is. Wow,
maybe that'd be done tomorrow as well.
yeah, I'll reach out, I'll send a message tonight.
That's good.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I do. I have a few things. I know we haven't seen the reorganization meeting agenda. But it's the first meeting that we're gonna have the student representatives at. So, I guess I'm curious to like, talk about it as a group, like, are these two students just sitting at the table with us? Like, are we giving them, an agenda item in case in the future, if they wanna give a report to the board? Or feedback, like, is that something that we would wanna consider doing?
So, what,
Since Tuesday, I believe, is the first day that we would have them there, and then I think we also asked, like. Are we also like letting them leave at, I don't know, 9:30 or whatever, 10 o'clock, I'm not sure, but not staying necessarily to midnight. And just kind of identifying that ahead of time before our first meeting with the students.
yes, I had an opportunity to speak with, both of the ex officio, school board members. And today is Wednesday, it was on Friday that I spoke with them. I did, and I will share with the board, I said to them that they don't have to stay for the entire meeting.
Could you define like a time?
Oh, so let me finish. I said they didn't have to stay for the entire meeting. I said that, I would discuss with the Board of Education that a change in the agenda, so therefore the students could give a report if they wanted to in the beginning of the meeting. So therefore, I said roughly about 9 o'clock, if you would like to leave the meeting, you could leave the meeting. I said, we as a board, we have to stay there as the entire time. I will share with you the questions that I provided to ex-officio board members. I have to share it with you guys as well as Dr. Talbert. And I said to them to look at these questions. I said, the board has to look at the questions. And not really questions, but just ideas of what they potentially could report on. And I said, once the board reviews this information and you review the information, then at that point in time, a decision will be made about what things you could potentially report on. I did say to them that they have to remember that when they're coming to the board, if there's any issues or concerns that they have within their building, that those issues and concerns should be addressed first at the building level before being brought to the school board meeting, just to see if it can be rectified at the building level and not bring the first time that it comes, should not come to the board of education meeting. So, I did share with them that there are nameplates for them. I did share with them that they'll be sitting at the table. NISBA has what's called a toolkit for them, but the toolkit is not really relevant, and I can download it and share with everyone, what everyone has access to for this particular toolkit. I did ask two other boards who have had student board members for the information and have not received their manual of what they put together. So then as a district, we need to put a manual together for these individuals, so therefore they know what their most responsibilities. They did ask whether or not they would be allowed to vote. I said, no, you're not allowed to vote. They asked if they're able to participate in discussion. I said if there's something that's relevant, they're able to participate on, said they will. They were a little bit concerned about how they would be received by the public. If they were given a report, would the public receive them well? And I said, I'm sure the public will receive them well. There's nothing that you should be, concerned about. I said, I don't see the public, being disrespectful in any way, sort of way to you guys as students. So they were relieved by the fact that they did not have to stay past, let's say 9 o'clock. I said, you guys have obligations may occur. The next day, something that
Thank you. What are, the questions?
I will forward that to you.
Would it make sense that we ask them to speak about the cell phone policy as in July?
We could ask them. July 15th.
But they're not obliged to come to that, that's not a regular step in the board.
Correct.
Which one of you have?
The forum.
13? Oh, no, but it could be at one of our work meetings.
They could also talk about it. I mean, they can come to the forum, they're welcome to, and it'd be great if they did, but if they can't, they could talk about it at the meeting on the 23rd.
Right, and I did share with them that they're really only obligated to come to the regular board meeting. But if they want to come to the work session, meeting, they can come to the work session.
Okay. So are they gonna be at the reorg?
They're gonna come at the reorg, is gonna be appointed, I think. They may be, recognized, which they, well, they were recognized at the time.
Maybe they'll get sworn in, that'd be nice for them.
I think they do get.
That'd be nice.
Any other
First time you go for
I don't know about that.
I just wanted to revisit Dr. Talbot's shared decision making up and running at the high school, of will it be next year? Because that would be a great avenue for them to make those meetings, report back, and it would be very purposeful to be in the high school, middle school. They can, align anything between the two buildings, bring it back. I think that would be a great way for them to handle a lot of information sharing.
And both buildings have shared decision making.
Any other things anyone else needs to address tonight?
I did jot down that, I think it was Ms. McCullough commented on the agenda. I mean, I'm also in agreement that it's confusing, not to us, but to community members, and I don't see, we just reviewed the agenda policy and we didn't necessarily have this template attached to the agenda policy, so I don't see why we wouldn't have flexibility in just trimming it down to the categories that we're actually using. At a meeting. So that's.
Agree with that, because I had that same confusion when I started getting involved in this, and I'm thinking that we're talking about all these different things and then. We're not.
Yeah, so there's no reason to like,
Public isn't
right,
thinking the same thing.
And if there's any action that needs to be taking place, that's. If it's a short agenda, and anything else that needs to be taking place, the agenda can always be. Linked. Any other comments? Anything else? Right, so at this point in time, I'll just take community input on any. Non-agenda items.
It's all right to sit here. We don't have to, okay. I'm glad you addressed the what you call it just now. Yeah, no.
Agenda?
The agenda. I couldn't get that word out of my mouth, because I was gonna ask if you could talk about it and come to a decision. So let's talk a list. I'm just gonna go through it's a quick list, but I think I'm more efficient if I just go through my list and then you can answer it. Okay, if that's all right. The hiring committee, I did watch. What, no, I'll say, it was reported, and I just want to clarify.
Just hold on a second, what I'm so I know, I'm just going to, I didn't do the time the last time, I'm just gonna start the
Okay.
time, it's, give me 1 second, please. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, parents and community members. And I'm so glad that it is included. But I just wanted to talk about it briefly, because going back to the new compact for learning and shared decision. And all these things that were put in place to include all the stakeholders, I was wondering. Why anybody would think that would just lapse, or think community members aren't qualified or parents aren't qualified. In other school districts, and the one I was in, there was equal representation of parents. Community members was a separate category. Senior citizens had one representation, because they were always at the meetings anyway, and then the union reps from all the different bodies. Parents are highly qualified. I've sat on these committees for over 20 years, and they have incredible input. To think a school district can only, wrap around the union issues, the union people, to decide is ludicrous. So I'm glad that the board came to that decision to include parents and community. That also brings me to, when you choose your parents and your community members, I hope that you're gonna follow the commissioner's regulations, the law. A parent is not also an employee. A parent is also not an employee who happens to live in Amityville, or a community member. Also could be an employee who happens to live in Amityville. A parent, under the definition, under the law, New York State, is a parent that is not an employee of the district, and a parent is also not part of any bargaining unit. So I know I've seen it, I corrected it, I've seen it in other districts, it's just so easy. Oh, come on, Joe, you got a kid. So we just wanna make sure that everybody's aware of that. And not using employees to fill these categories. The robocalls, quickly, I just wanted to ask, who would be getting robocalls? The whole community or just the parent community?
Excuse me, for the cell phone, you mean?
Yeah, it was just thrown out here, so I just wanted to know what that would mean. Transportation policy, I don't know, I know you worked on the private school policy. Are you working on the overall transportation policy? If you're not, I wanna ask why, because we had that huge issue. We don't have, and if you notice on Facebook recently, people are throwing out all different mileage numbers. People who I thought were in the know. No, it's a mile and a half. Well, it's not a mile and a half if you're in 3rd grade and 5th grade, I believe.
So you just have to wrap up.
Okay,
That was the time.
so that's very important. Why isn't a transportation policy the priority, considering everything we went through? Took so much time to find the policy, we discovered our own kids that go to this district. Were not getting proper buses based on mileage that we were using. Cause I told you and you told me and the next one told the other one, nobody knew what it actually was. So that should be top priority. You should drop everything, get that transportation policy. Parents shouldn't be wondering, is my third grade and now a mile, mile and a quarter, mile and a half. So that was it, and the only other thing is, I would like to have a discussion, obviously not at the podium. Maybe the board can have a presentation and suggest it as an agenda item, or if you allow, I believe, Title I. You control Title I. If I could sit down, and I have a lot of questions. You know, when are the meetings, who are the parents deciding how to spend that 1%? I have a lot of questions, so I just wanted to ask you what would be proper.
Thank you, so. In regards to the robocall, I believe. That call only goes to parents within the district. And transportation policy, going to get another policy committee. That's something that we worked on. And Dr. Talbot, in terms of Title I, any questions that Ms. McCollum has, who should she communicate with? Should contact you directly?
Sure, if you send an email, we can set up a meeting with Ms. Stevens and answer any questions you have
Okay, great,
about timing.
thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, I thought we have the public school transportation policy in our emails.
I'm almost sure that we do, I know.
I think we should probably get it on our reorg since we are transporting kids this summer.
So, soon as I can look at all the, I know certain policies have come back.
Next week where.
Soon as I have to, soon as some of the policies come back and I can, if it's gonna be on the reorg, it'll be on the reorg, it's not gonna be on not reorg, but it'll be on. The meeting for that night, if not, then it'll be on July 15th, so yes, it's something that's gonna be addressed, I put the note down. And we double check to see which policies are completed and which between will be coming up. Any other community input on non-agenda items?
Yes. Can we revisit the decision to remove policy 9024?
Will you just give me your.
20
Yes.
separately? Can we revisit the decision to remove policy 9024R, which included the district's diversity initiatives? What was the intended goal of its removal? Given the majority of our students come from East Massapequa and North Amityville and represent predominantly minority populations, how does the district plan to increase the recruitment and hiring of qualified minority educators?
So to answer the question, it's a policy that can be looked at again with the policy committee is formed again.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding non-agenda items?
Yes, Patty Deek. Just a quick question about our fine arts director. Am I correct in that her contract ended on June 30? And when will one be appointed for this coming school year?
What, tell her?
In July, but we will be appointing in July.
Margaret Jeff Amityville. It's hard to just stick to non-agenda items because so much gets transpired during this meeting, so I do have some questions with that regard, but I had a question for President Johnson. You said the student board of ed members, that before they bring anything school related, that they go to the buildings and they make sure they try to rectify whatever their concerns are with the buildings. Has there been an introduction, an entree to them, to the building people that matter, that they could? In other words, the students are gonna come here to the board, but they're supposed to go somewhere else if they have school level concerns. But to make sure they don't go on deaf ears on the school level, that they have some type of introduction to say, these two are board, whatever the official title is, for the student board members, so that they are welcomed and reasoned with on that level, so that they're taken seriously and not on deaf ears. That was number one. I think that's important that they get some type of introduction. And number two is the status of the next school year, because we're at that juncture where we're at deficits of, it might be early in the game, but the scheduling and all those tasks that need to be done for a good start for the school year. I ask this question every summer as what percentage you're at, what's your deficit, what are you gonna be against the gun for in the middle of August? Because we've started school and there's been really big detriments as far as scheduling goes. It's all those types of things, like what is the percentage of where you're supposed to be at this juncture?
That's a good question.
Yes. Are you finished with?
No, I have more questions, but if you want to answer as I
No, I'll
go.
let you go and then when.
Okay, and what I found quite glaring is that I think you really need to change your language when it comes to the word consultant, because a district clerk consultant in what I'm hearing in this meeting tonight is basically a temp. You use the word consultant in the wrong fashion, in the fact that it should be a temp worker for the district clerk office, but not a district clerk consultant. This person is not consulting anything. They're doing work, excess work that is needed. So to change that wording and language, it just makes no sense, because they're really not a consultant. They're a freelancer, they're a temp worker, or whatever the case may be, but consultant they are not, unless they're teaching or advising the situation on how to conduct business, which in some cases that wouldn't be such a bad thing if they have historic jobs and related, information that they can pass on. And the cell phone forum situation, is there a structure and agenda on how that's going to be? Is it going to be a free-for-all? Is it like, what's the cadence of how it's going to be worked, operated? Is it just going to be a room full of people yelling out ideas? Like, what is the structure for that meeting? Because if it's not structured, it's going to go to hell. And the other thing for the forum is, why don't you just use your emails for the parents and your audience, and get the feedback through an email and have someone sit through the responses that way? Because you're lucky you get 10 parents at a meeting. You'll probably get more people for the cell phone meeting. But as a rule, your audience your levels of attendees are horrendous, which is sad in every aspect. But if you email the people and say, you lay out the law, this is what we have to abide to, this is what are your concerns, and get you 300 emails, because that's probably all you're gonna get. And find out the consensus of what the concern is, compile them all, but you're gonna spend a whole couple of hours doing a free-for-all and maybe get nothing resolved, because I could see that happening in a heartbeat. And as far as the hiring committee email to segregate the applications that come in to do the hiring committee, I believe, if I understood this correctly, all you have to do is change the cadence, because you're saying if you have a BOE email, that it's gonna go eventually used after the fact, and it would go to the wrong people. Change the cadence and do hire committee at BOE, and then obviously there would be it would only be used for that purpose. It takes nothing to do that, to segregate that email for that task. And the robocall, if it's going to the parents only with the hiring committee, that's not good enough. There's got to be another avenue. I'm done.
So just a couple things.
Huh?
So with the student, school board members, they have an advisor that works with them at the high school. So therefore, my understanding is that the advisor has already, met with them. The advisor, has also introduced them to the administration. And so people are well informed of what their role is going to be, so that's already been taken care of.
Excellent.
In regards to, scheduling and whatnot for next year. We have the information, what we can do. I think Dr. Talbot, maybe there's an update that can be provided, will be in July. Right, and. Consultant language, I hear your point, but right now I was saying that as consultant language. The cell phone, now that we are confirmed it's definitely gonna be at the farm, then the process will be established on how that forum is gonna take place. Just as when there was a forum at Northeast, it was well organized, well attended, and there was a lot of information that was provided back, so. I do not see this cell forum, meeting being a free-for-all. And I believe the intention was to email parents and even maybe some high school students to get some feedback in regards to the cell phone policy that would be nice as well. And noted about the hiring committee email. Any other input on, non-agenda?
Jessica Adams, Amityville, this may be off top, but what is the
procedure for security at the schools. And I'll tell you why. I had a story given to me by a coworker. She had to pick up her niece in an after-school program. She walked directly into the school, past security, was not stopped, looked around, all the kids running around playing. Her niece found her, she walked right out. She asked her mom, "Is this normal?" She said, "Yeah, they never stop you." What's the procedure? Now, back then, I know I used to come in, give an ID, it was scanned, I got a sticker with my name and my picture. Then I was allowed to come in and go wherever I needed to go and do whatever I need to do. That system is no longer being used. Is that something we're still paying for? Because then that's a waste. But at the end of the day, if we're all here for the children's safety, it failed.
So maybe if after the meeting, we can just let Dr. Talbot know which building that occurred at, so that.
Sure.
Thank you.
It might be good to share
that. Any other questions regarding non-agenda items?
That's probably the fifth time. In my time of coming to meetings that subject has come up numerous times.
At this point in time, we have the information, I'll ask Dr. Talbot to follow up on it. I know from going to the high school, for example, and going in that way. I know that they definitely always check at the door, so I don't know what building it's at, so we just need to find out what building it's at, so therefore, if there's a situation that needs to be addressed again, then we address it again. Any other comments on non-agenda items?
Yeah, no, go on. The question is,
Noah?
yeah, can you not share that on my Facebook?
This is a public meeting.
I know, but
It's-
share it to.
We're allowed to.
So my question is for this, what is the board's policy in regards to information that the board is allowed to share online? And I can't ask, I do have right to ask that. So you can share it with them. Well, what's the board's policy? And that if our board members are allowed to share information online, that happens in the board,
So
during board meetings?
if
Is there a policy for that?
So this, a board member can provide information online on Facebook or whatever. But it has to be clearly identified that it's coming just from them and their perspective as a board member. So they cannot speak on behalf of the entire board. Like say, for example, I can't go on Facebook and say, well, we as Board of Education have now decided that this is definitely gonna be the cell phone policy that's been, and it has been formalized. And we as board, so the language has to be very, so New York State does allow people to post on Facebook. But they should identify that it's related just to, so as a board member, I'm sharing with you my perspective on the cell phone policy and how it's gonna impact our school district, or from my perspective. So that's what we just have to be careful. So yes, you can place on Facebook, but it has to be from perspective of that one individual. I'm not speaking for the entire board, unless the board had unless the board had a Facebook page or social media page, and this was coming from Board of Education. Even like if there's an email, even if there's an email that comes to myself or any other board member, I can acknowledge the email has been received, but I really have to be careful about what I say as the board president, because then my entire board would have to agree with what I'm stating.
And are board members made aware of that then?
I believe all board members should be aware, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions on non-agenda items? I think Diane was,
Diane Eglinger, Bryan Avenue. Quick question, the forum is open to anyone, correct?
yes.
Okay. I would just like to know where the $2 million that we were supposed to get is, where that stands right now. Because back a few months when I was on the budget committee, we were told that that was a definite, and then like the next meeting, we were told that wasn't a definite. So I'm just trying to find out what happened with that $2 million.
It is a part of our state aid for the Amityville School District. In terms of actually receiving the funds, it's estimated around September.
Well, it's not really included in the state aid. It was a separate entity, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's in the state aid
Separate
budget,
student.
yeah.
There's a line.
Okay, so when that comes to the district, how does that come to us? Does it come through the mail? Does it get handed to somebody? Does it get put in a bank somewhere? How does that happen?
We are notified, that it will be, as a part of our, I'm not really sure, let me not answer you incorrectly, okay?
It's a
So I
second
will
time.
confirm and I'll let you know.
Okay. Next one, I saw a couple of questions. I brought this question up a couple of meetings ago when we were discussing the bus transportation and extending the mileage. And I asked, wouldn't you have to reopen the application to the students who were now going to be added? And I was told emphatically that it was not needed. I even turned to the lawyer and said, is that true? And he said, nope, we don't need to do it again. So now I see that it is being reopened. And people need to apply for that until August 1st, I believe, I think I saw. So were parents notified that they have to do this, or are we just flying by the seat of our pants? Or how did this happen? Because I was under the impression that it wasn't going to happen. So now when I saw this, that it was happening again, I said, okay, so how were all the parents informed? And how are we gonna know what students are added to the list? Because we should have a definite list of who's going on that bus or buses.
So in terms of informing the public about the resolution, our website is going through a transition and it should be up and running by July 7th, which is Monday. So once it's up and running by July 7th, we usually do a posting on the website to notify. And your second question was regarding buses?
I just wanna know where it comes together. Because people who were taking the bus who were under 15 miles knew they had to have their application in by April 1st. Now we've extended it to 17 miles. So these parents just are assuming that they have this bus. You know, that they're accepted now within the 17 mile, but technically they are supposed to apply. So we know exactly who these students are that are going on the bus. Am I not?
So,
Yeah,
it
they have
was-
to apply.
yeah, it was at one of the meetings that, that was brought up as from one of the board trustees about that we should consider, reopening it and allowing individuals, to then submit an application up until, like, say, August 1st, in order to get the transportation. And so to make sure that we could maybe minimize any issues of litigation. So I'm paraphrasing, I may be off by a word or two. So after a round of discussion and then after discussion with legal again, the decision was to move forward.
Okay, but my question is, how do these parents know they have to do that?
Right.
And
So
are we keeping a record of the
we're gonna-
5 kids, the 30 kids, the 50 kids,
So,
whatever it is?
so to answer your question, yes, there'll be a record that'll be kept of people who apply. What we don't know is how many people will apply and what the cost will be. It all depends on, is it a bus that they're already an existing bus, so it won't be any cost to us. If it's another bus that's required, then it will be a cost to us as a district. So yes, a record will be kept of who applies, who will get transportation.
What if
And
nobody,
what
what
the
if, nobody-
cost-
what if nobody sends in their application, but we know there are students out there that wanna be on the bus? That's-
So there's a couple of things, we can do it on the website, and then we can also, maybe even put it maybe in a advertise, like the Animal Herald and Mass Animal Herald, put it in those locations.
It's gotta go on fast.
Yeah.
Social media again,
You know,
just so
price
here
per
it's there.
se.
Because I can see what happening, you know, people
Website.
feel that we passed this proposal, this vote. It's 17 miles now, and you know, mom and dad say, oh, you were 17 miles, just get on the bus. But you don't know that Joe Schmo is getting on the bus. So there has to be some kind of official record of how many kids are getting on that bus
So,
for our expenses and for safety reasons.
right, so a couple of things, yes, there will be a record that will be kept, but the biggest thing is also, making sure that it is advertised to the community, that the community knows that, this is available. And
Okay.
I think you're getting to the end.
Can I just ask this one last question, because I think it's important. The summer programs that are in all the schools for the summer, from the 8:30 to 12:30 or whatever, you guys hired a lot of people, there was a budget for that whole thing. And I'm just wondering, how many students were budgeted for that program? And how many students have signed up for that?
So I'm gonna divert to Ms. Stevens. I'm not sure if you know the exact numbers, but can you just give her an update on where we are with that?
I can give you an update. So we budgeted for one science class and one reading class at each grade level. The last numbers that I saw were at Northwest, a total of just over 150 students. I'm sorry, I can't remember the park numbers off the top of my head, and 50 at the middle school. For the numbers that we have.
So what did you budget for? What was the number that you
Oh, I'm
budgeted
sorry.
for?
So, at the Northwest building, there were 36 students per grade level. At Park and middle school, there were 40 students per.
That
grade
doesn't
level
tell me
we
what
budgeted.
what the whole number is for the district. Was it 300 children? Is it 400 children? Because it depends on what was budgeted for
Right,
and how many kids are going to those programs. I heard the enrollment was very, very low. So if we budgeted for all this money to be used, what happens if that number of children do not attend? Where does that extra money go? Does it go back? Do those teachers not go to those classes? What happens with that program?
so the enrollment is in line with what we expected, but there's only one of each class at each grade level. So we wouldn't be canceling classes, we're in line with that.
So is this money coming from our budget or from grant?
That's what I was gonna say. A lot of it is, Diane, a lot of it is grant funded.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I'm just saying,
that doesn't mean, just because it's grant funded,
Right.
doesn't mean you wanna spend the whole grant.
exactly, but.
You know,
just to
okay,
let
you-
you know, it's not all, you know, like,
Doesn't mean anything to me, dollars is dollars.
Alright,
So if you budgeted for 400 children and you get 100, what happens with that other 300 students' cost? That's what I wanna know, because I think that's an important thing for the district to know.
So for this particular grant, it's a multi-year grant. So the excess money would just move it into the other years. So we're funded through the end of next year for this particular grant. We wouldn't be losing money on it.
It rolls over.
Alright, so, we have the information, we have the question. If, we get more detailed information for you.
It would be nice to have like a presentation. This is what was budgeted, how many teachers, how many students, how many came, how many attended for the whole summer, was it effective?
Thank you. Any other committee input or non-agenda
I
items?
just have a,
Well, hold on a second.
well, it goes along with her Ms. Eglinger's transportation questions, we do already have students that apply for transportation going to Lehigh, St. Albans and, Charlotte, right? So we do have a record of some students, it's just, we don't know what additional students might be added on,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Okay.
So if it's already an existing bus, it's not an issue. I know an issue is not the correct word. If it's an already existing bus,
Yeah.
it doesn't cost us anything. The question would be is that if it's a new bus to a new school, then that cost is what we have to come with.
And then these families that are already registered, are they understanding of what the central drop-off location process? Is that what's happening to this?
Doesn't happen.
All travel arrangements will be made plain and clear to the applicable payment.
But that is the case, right? We have a central drop-off for anyone beyond the mileage? Are we
Yes,
supposed-
I think that's the way the transportation policy is written. We have the draft of it.
We'll confirm.
yeah.
Any other community input or non-agenda items? Go ahead.
Good evening, Patricia Hudson. I just, I don't know that I heard the answer to a question that was presented. In regards to the language that was removed. Meaning, what was the logic in removing language of looking for qualified professionals due to the diversity of this community? Where did it come from? Who felt it was appropriate or needed to remove the language when we know the research that speaks to having diversity in the personnel teaching pool in a largely diverse community? Where did that come from? Whose idea was it to do? The other point I'd like to make as a community member, and I address this to the board, but also to my fellow community members, of a level of mutual respect for each other. While yes, this is a public meeting, I feel in all due respect to our fellow members, if someone asks that you not film them, please honor them.
Being filmed, right?
No. There, they can't see me. Hear me out. Again, a level of mutual respect. As a respectful community member, if I ask you not to photograph me, I would hope that you would honor that. Because again, cameras for the board. It's not for the community. Miss Wendy, you pointed the camera to this gentleman. You're pointing the camera to me. When the woman next to you began to speak.
I don't think a school board is a resident to resident,
I'm
back and forth.
I'm trying to be respectful.
I understand what you're saying, it is a public forum, but I don't think.
You
this is
did not,
respect.
you did not.
Excuse me. This is, I can't have back and forth going on in the audience. Okay? Ms. Hobson, can you go ahead and finish your point? Is there anything else?
My point was to ask my fellow community members and the board to support, and that we have a civil meeting when we come here on Wednesday evenings. In addition to, please answer my question in regards to why the language was removed.
There was a discussion that occurred at, I think it was the last board meeting, in regards to the hiring policy. And some of the conversation that came up with some of the board members, they felt that the federal law wording in regards to, I don't remember everything, the whole federal law wording that's utilized, that was adequate enough. And that we did not need to have the regulation that goes into the detail about the hiring, about the diversity of a committee. So after a round of discussion, there was a vote that took place. And at that point in time, there was a consensus of the board to no longer have that particular policy and to utilize the new ones. So that's why I had said earlier that when the policy committee is reformed, their policy will be good.
Thank you.
And if we change it, changes. If it doesn't change, it doesn't change. Any other community input on non-agenda items? Someone in the back.
I just have a question. Does the board have an issue with just putting the word diversity in it?
It's a question that would need to be addressed at the policy committee because there seemed to be an issue with the word of diversity in this.
I have something, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Sure, several things. Having that language was problematic. I think it's Article 6 of the federal law, so we followed the federal law on that. Because you can't just say one set of ethnicity or anything like that, so the federal law does cover that. As far as the selection committee, you stated that the deadline is July 10th, which is Wednesday, but you're not meeting till the following Tuesday. It's a holiday weekend. Should the board be extending that? So for a greater participation, that's probably something you might want to do. I thought that was a pretty good idea about just changing the email address to be specific to this. As far as just letting parents know about the selection committee, that is problematic. In other districts, community members can opt into emails and robocalls. I think that that's been discussed before, so that should be something that should be advertised in this district. Maybe the Herald could put something up in their Facebook page, maybe with this, you might be able to do something like that. As far as the consultant, I was deeply concerned about that as somebody who typed all the policies, who sent an email on June 30th, while the consultant was still here, and to the other speaker's point, attempt is more like it, I do agree. There are only 3 policies right now that are outstanding. They're not 11, they're 3. 2 of them were uploaded, the old policies were uploaded with a new adoption date. The adopted, approved policies were not updated, they were incorrectly updated. The regulation is still up there that needs to be taken down, and the private school transportation one has to be put up, so it's three total policies, the regulation has to be taken down. It is critical for the board to have the correct policies up there. Because you have community members, the school district's governed by policies, the staff follows policies. If the staff is to implement anything that's incorrect because the school district neglected to put the correct policies up, it puts the staff in not a great, in a risky, liable situation, which should be prevented. There was a resolution directing the superintendent to have all adopted policies up on Friday, June 27th. The directive was to the superintendent. It's up to her to have it be done. There's other people that, we have network engineers that make $1.5 million. We have an assistant to the superintendent. Other people could do this. If you feel the Board of Education that only one person can do the job, then the Board of Education failed. There should be cross training. There should be other people doing these, jobs. As far as, selection committee, so about like to hire a consultant to upload policies, like guys, it takes like 5 to 10 minutes, like it's not that hard and somebody else can do it, there's other employees again. Let me see how everyone starts. As far as, the posting for this cell phone policy, I was happy to see that they're gonna stick to the forums. And that it's gonna be at a later time so that parents and students can attend, with just the one action item. And I agree that, it came about the, extending for a blanket approval for the private schools between 15 and 17 miles to avoid any potential litigation, but it's up to the district to push that information out. Also, it was a week ago that we spoke about addressing an email for the selection committee to applicants to put in. Board of Education, it's up to you guys to get it done. If your president's not getting it done, it's up to you to follow up and get on top of them. Each of you have individual responsibility for the voters, to your constituents, you just have to get the job done. I understand it's been challenging, but, we wanna move forward with excellence, so. That's all I think I have with him.
Any other committee input on non-supervising?
Right, just
Go ahead. I went already.
Okay, Kia Wolf, PC president. Just kind of a few things. I'm sure that you guys as the standing board members are aware of what your responsibilities are. And what it is that you're supposed to do. So hopefully we can depend on you to do what is necessary to do what is right. Feel that the transportation piece, which keeps on coming back up and not coming back up. First, we talked about a transportation committee. Then the board decided not to move forward with the transportation committee because quote unquote, the problem or the issue was solved. So now we're talking about bringing the transportation committee back again. So my question is that, what was the purpose of the transportation? If you want to go back and look at the video, you will find out who said that we don't need one because it's solved. The situation was solved. We don't need one anymore. But an effort to make my point directly to the board president. We should make sure that if we're going to have a transportation committee, that it should address all aspects of transportation. That includes public school transportation and private school transportation to make sure that we're doing the best to make sure that we are getting the best value for a dollar as it relates to that.
Can I just stop you for 1 second? There was no comment about a transportation committee, it's about the transportation policy, not a committee.
No, there was,
Not tonight.
No, not tonight.
Okay.
But there was a resident brought up about a transportation committee, and I agree that we should have one. Because we should make sure that, I thought that was the point of wanting to have one in the first place, is to make sure that we were getting, making sure that we cast a wide net. To make sure that we were getting the best transportation for all of our students as possible. But it definitely seemed like once the referendum passed, that there was no longer a need for one. based off of comments that took place at a board meeting. The other piece as it relates to the policy 9042R. The district having an initiative, and I can understand where it is that the making sure that we're in compliance with the law as it relates to certain types of diversity and initiatives. As it relates to the policy itself. I really don't know what was actually wrong with the policy, other than some individuals taking offense to it, which everyone has it's a matter of perspective. But I did ask whether or not the board would be interested in entertaining adding some of those changes that were spoken about at the last board meeting as addendums to the existing policy. To make sure that there was a combination that worked, that had everyone's input in it, that addressed all of the concerns for the board members, that didn't take away from what the policy had in existence. Additionally, as it relates to recruiting and hiring, I've been in the district for 26 years and I've never known for parents to not be, for parents to be excluded. Now, whether or not we've done a good job of putting that out there for parents to be on the committee is a different piece entirely. So I don't know why it is that we needed to change our hiring policy. I do think that we needed to enforce it to make sure that we were inclusive the way that we were supposed to be. If for some reason we weren't inclusive, then I think that should have been the conversation, instead of trying to gut it and complicate it. Just make sure you're following the policies that you have in place. I think that would solve a lot of problems, because the district will always do better when you have stakeholders from all aspects.
And just have one clarification, Diane Eglinger. The robocall is going to be used for both the open forum and the hiring committee? I'm a little confused. I thought it was just gonna be used for the open forum. I'm not sure.
My notes in.
I think we said we were gonna, as a level call out to notify people to apply to.
To apply, that's what I have to do.
So it's just for the hiring, the application.
But
then it only goes to the-
For a meeting.
Sorry?
So what,
Robocall go out anyway for a meeting.
wait a second, it's the robocall. My notes is just two things. One is for the cell phone policy form, to let people know about that, that's gonna be taking place. Right? The other discussion was the robocall connected to the application for the hiring committee.
So it is gonna be used for both,
So we have to utilize.
but it just goes out to the parents, right? That robocall just goes out to parents.
I
Any
have-
other community input?
I'd like to ask the board, if they can vote to extend the deadline to the selection committee. Past July 10th, since you're not reviewing them until July 15th, why not give the community and parents the next weekend and have them submit by, I don't know, Sunday by 5 p.m. Yeah. Sunday, the.
So the Board of
13th.
Education want to entertain the extension of the deadline for the application for the hiring committee to July 15th.
Well, not until it's something.
I'm just saying.
It's-
It's either the end of the day on 14.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the deadline currently is July 10th. Right, our next meeting will be July 15th, when we would be reviewing things. So it would have to be either July, whatever, 12, 13, 14, it's all going online, so.
Well, why couldn't it go to the
So-
meeting, the 23rd?
So, ladies and gentlemen, so fellow board members, we have a decision to make. Either do we want to extend the deadline to like July? I'm gonna look at the calendar, let's say July 15th or July 18th, we go to July 18th, it gives us all 2 weeks. And then there's a board meeting on July 23rd, so it can be reviewed then.
I would extend it to the 23rd, to have it. If Thomas made to say, yeah, give him time,
The 18th.
because it's a holiday weekend and
To the
people are,
18th.
Yeah,
Right.
it's,
I think it's good.
say if we're gonna extend it that long, why not give them that weekend to fill out the application, we'll make it the end of the day on the 20th.
And then review them on
Yeah,
July.
but I think we wanna utilize the selection committee for the assistant super of finance, which the, I think the applications are due July 15th.
Right, that was
So I think
the
that
idea
is-
that we are going to be hiring an assistant superintendent in the very near future for. Finance operations, and we did want this in place for that.
For the Sunday.
Yeah,
So,
so 14th
What,
is.
what education, what do you wanna do?
The 14th.
14th close of business.
Sure, July 14th. closes.
All right, so Madam President, I propose a motion. To move the closing date for for applicants to apply for the hiring committee until July 14th, close of business. For community members.
This is the second.
Is there? All those in favor? Aye.
And I just have
So
one question.
6 yes.
When is it gonna be?
Excuse me, I'm
posted?
not done yet,
Okay.
excuse me. 6 yes and 1 no.
You're gonna-
Me, I'm a no.
Okay.
And last thing, anything else?
I just wanted to, I wasn't gonna, ask this question or bring it up, but one of our community members, Lily, was, stated her position. At the last meeting, I was sitting behind mother and child. I looked to the board president, to have a little bit more wrap around of the audience. Behind me and to my right, as the board member is speaking, a word is yelled out. Nothing is said up here. The word that should never be in the school board meeting with students present. First of all, you know people aren't supposed to call, but if they're gonna yell out a slur, it should not happen at a school board meeting. You wanna talk in the parking lot and call somebody a name? That's your freedom to do that. There was a student, who I believe is moving on to middle school. That's horrible. Why would anybody get a slide on that? If I yelled out a slur, I probably wouldn't make it to the parking lot.
So if there was something that was stated, if I did not hear anything,
Okay,
if I
well,
hear something, then I would
search
address it.
video, but the video's gone.
But I'm just saying, if I heard something, then I would address it.
Okay,
Anytime I hear something that's not appropriate,
and I've
I do
seen
address it. So I address it,
something,
I address it across the board to everyone.
that was a big one.
So I'm sorry, if it was something that was stated, that was heard, there was something that someone said, I did not hear it.
Okay,
Every time someone says something, if I hear something, I do address it.
I wanted to just, because, you know, mutual respect is so important, it's important to me. And when I went to that meeting, and I wanted to thank, Wendy for when she's leading the board. I served so many years on a school board, I served so many years as a parent leader. I have worked with people that I didn't agree with, I have worked with people who purposely sabotaged anything I tried to do. I worked with them at the table, and I thanked them. Just as my mother taught me and my grandmother and everybody else. And you guys were stone silent. When a school board member's on their last day. I've never seen that before. I think we need to reflect on it, that's all, that's my opinion.
Thank you. Any other committee input announcement?
One more question, Patty D. Understanding that the community member selections for the hiring committee will be made during an executive session. Would the board perhaps share their criteria after the selection is made, or share with us a rubric or some framework that was used for the selection, just in the name of transparency, which is something we all want. I think it's important for the community to know how you chose the members. Thank you.
Any other comments on non-agenda item?
Yeah, I just have one final thing. I don't think we had a clear answer when the application is gonna be pushed out to the
We
parents.
did July 14th.
No, when is it gonna be published? Because Friday's a holiday, you know, it's,
Is this, I have to being that the consultant is no longer on the books, I have to see whether the consultant is available or what information is, and hopefully if it's not gonna be out tomorrow, that's gonna be out on Monday. Thanks. Any other comments on non-agenda items? Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:45? 9:45, Christian first,
Second.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Everyone good.